Battle through the heavens. The area outside the hall was a spacious empty tract of land with a great view. At a glance, one's sight would extend until the edge of the empty land. There were some lush green woods located on the edge, forming a circular shape that wrapped around the large hall. Xiao Yan stood outside the large hall. His expression was a calm, but the Dou Qi in his body had begun to slowly surge. The feeling of being filled with energy spread across every single corner of his body. Numerous elders from the Burning Flame Valley had swarmed out of the exit of the large hall. The one leading them was naturally Tang Zhen, Tang Hui'er as well as the two elders. Due to this large hall being a place that many Burning Flame Valley's disciples frequented, quite a number of these disciples caught sight of the elders when they had just appeared. From this lineup, all the disciples knew that something had happened even without being told. Hence, numerous private conversations spread in all directions like a wave of water. Within less than 10 minutes, the surroundings of the large hall were densely packed with red figures. Xiao Yan ignored the surroundings that had swiftly become lively. His gaze merely stared at a red-robed elder across from him. This person was Wu Chen. Tang Zhen, who was on the stairs, frowned as he glanced at Wu Chen. After which, his eyes helplessly turned to Xiao Yan as he asked, "Are you really certain?" Xiao Yan smiled and nodded to Tang Zhen in the face of these words. Wu Chen was indeed very stronger. However, from the current Xiao Yan's perspective, Wu Chen was not as thorough as those prehistoric wild beasts that were unmatched. He had the confidence to last for 10 exchanges. What a stubborn fellow. Tang Zhen could only sigh when he saw Xiao Yan nod. The smile on Wu Chen's face increased when he saw that Xiao Yan did not change his mind midway through. He looked at Xiao Yan and spoke with a faint smile, "There is no need to say anything else. If you can last for 10 exchanges in the hands of the old me, it will be considered your victory. The Skyfire 3 mysterious change will also belong to you. However, if you fail to endure, it will only mean that you do not have any affinity with the Skyfire 3 mysterious change. However, you will still be allowed to choose one of the other high-class Qi methods or Dou skills from the Burning Flame Valley." Some of the disciples from the Burning Flame Valley immediately burst into an uproar when they heard Wu Chen's words. Numerous disbelieving eyes looked to Xiao Yan. Although quite a number of people were aware of Xiao Yan's alchemist skill, being a brilliant alchemist did not mean that one was strong. Wu Chen was the third elder of the Burning Flame Valley. There was hardly anyone whose strength was greater than his, yet this young man, who looked to be of similar age as them, was actually thinking of fighting him. There is no need for Elder Wu's reminder. If I fail to endure, the little me will immediately leave and will not have extravagant hopes about other Qi methods or Dou skills. Xiao Yan spoke in an indifferent manner. He did not really like this old fellow. Wu Chen gently took a step forward. An unusually majestic, fiery red Dou Qi surged out of Wu Chen's body. At this moment, his white hair scattered, and his red robe fluttered. The momentum was extremely shocking. The fiery red Dou Qi was just like a fire cloud that permeated the air. The originally ordinary and calm eyes of Wu Chen also emitted a piercing glow. He looked to Xiao Yan while his voice contained a powerful and frightening tone, "Are you ready?" Xiao Yan gently took 2 steps back. Dou Qi began to flow rapidly within his body. His expression also gradually became solemn. Immediately, he beckoned with his right hand and said, "Attack." Wu Chen let out a loud laugh when he heard this. Under the influence of the majestic Dou Qi, the laughter sounded just like thunder as it resonated over the sky. Wu Chen took a step forward and his body instantly disappeared. In the eyes of an ordinary Burning Flame Valley disciple, Wu Chen appeared to have disappeared in a strange manner. However, in the eyes of Xiao Yan and those with similar or greater strength, it was possible for them to vaguely see a red figure creating a deafening sonic boom as it suddenly arrived. Xiao Yan narrowed his eyes. A silver glow swiftly surged under his feet and his body immediately shook. Boom! A fiery red fist appeared in a strange fashion and heavily smashed into Xiao Yan's chest. Immediately, it carried a low, deep sound as it penetrated his chest. Afterimage? This should be the 3000 lightning movement from the Wind Lightning Pavilion, right? It is unique. Wu Chen's face did not show the slightest change after his punch proved futile. He let out a cold smile and shattered the afterimage. Flames lingered over both of his hands and these hands gradually became a little larger in the process. Looking from a distance, it appeared just like a pair of warhammers. Xiao Yan's body had just appeared when a caution flashed across his heart. He strode to his left in a lightning-like manner. Qi! Xiao Yan's body had just moved when a fiery red, large hand suddenly brushed past the clothes near Xiao Yan's abdomen. The hot Dou Qi contained in the flame caused Xiao Yan's skin to feel a slight pain. Pure yang cotton hand. Before Xiao Yan could swiftly pull back after narrowly dodging this large hand, a low cry suddenly sounded. Immediately, he saw the fiery red hand strangely extend by half its size. The wrist turned and slammed into Xiao Yan's waist. Bang! A low, deep sound appeared and Xiao Yan's body flew back amid the exclamations from the crowd. After which, his feet stepped on empty air, forcing him to roll in the air. After which, he landed with one knee on the ground and abruptly raised his head. A trace of blood was vaguely present on the corner of his mouth. Wu Chen's strange Dou skill had caused him to suffer a great loss. Wu Chen's body also appeared a couple dozen meters away. His fiery red hands were clenched while he looked at Xiao Yan. He faintly said, "Pure yang cotton hand, one of the high-class Dou skills of the Burning Flame Valley. If one reaches complete mastery, one would be able to make one's hands extend as one pleases. It will be able to obtain quite a unique effect when fighting with others. You are indeed worthy of being the third elder of the Burning Flame Valley. This tactic is indeed admirable." Xiao Yan rubbed off the trace of blood on the corner of his mouth. The glazed lotus heart flame within his body swiftly surged and swallowed a wild, violent hidden force, which had entered his body, in the most rude, violent method it could manage. After which, he stared at Wu Chen and laughed, again. This fellow really did not get his reputation in the northern region from nothing. Looks like the old me also needs to be a little more serious. Wu Chen's face gradually turned solemn as this thought flashed through his heart. His fiery red, large hand was also became brighter. At the same time, a flame like Dou Qi slowly surged from under both his feet. The old me also wishes to experience the Wind Lightning Pavilion's 3000 lightning movement. I want to see if my Burning Flame Valley's sky-shattering stone steps are stronger or if their 3000 lightning movement is better. Wu Chen laughed. His right foot, covered in flames, suddenly stomped on the ground. Bang! A muffled sound appeared. The tough rock under Wu Chen's foot cracked apart. His body emitted a "chi" sound as it strangely disappeared. The solemnness on Xiao Yan's face became denser the instant Wu Chen disappeared. A moment later, all the pores on his body opened wide. The 3000 lightning movement was unleashed by him to its limit as a reflexive action, and an afterimage appeared. Qi! The fiery red human figure carried a low, deep sonic boom as it ruthlessly collided with the afterimage like a human-shaped tank. The afterimage instantly collapsed. The fiery red human figure immediately stabilized his body after having missed. A sonic boom erupted in front of him and a crack appeared on the ground. Without waiting for this sonic boom to spread, the fiery red human figure once again violently stomped on the ground. His body was just like a rocket that rose into the air. In an instant, he had appeared in front of Xiao Yan. What swift speed! Xiao Yan's expression changed as he glanced at the red figure, which approached in a flash. The Dou skill which Wu Chen had displayed might not be as agile and flexible as the 3000 lightning movement, but its forward momentum and destructive strength were exceedingly terrifying. A heavy ruler appeared in Xiao Yan's hands while the veins in his arms pounded. He let out a cold cry in his heart, six-joint body flowing ruler, six-joint flame. The first move that Xiao Yan used was the strongest move of the six-joint body flowing ruler. He did not hold anything back because Xiao Yan was clearly aware that a fight with an 8-star Dou zone was one that was extremely arduous. The heavy ruler was accompanied by an incomparable wind as it furiously hacked down. It had just been swung when a red figure appeared. The large hands full of a red glow ruthlessly smashed at the heavy ruler while fiery red Dou Qi surged. Clang! A clear metallic sound reverberated across the sky. Immediately, an intense rippling force spread through the air in a lightning-like manner. After which, the two figures flew backwards in front of the anxious gazes over everyone. Finally, they collided with the towering walls around the large hall. Bang! The wall behind Xiao Yan had been depressed, forming a large hole in the process. Cracks spread out like a spider web. He let out a soft cough before he slowly raised his head and rubbed off the trace of blood on the corner of his mouth. The wild, heated expression in his eyes revealed his addiction to battle, causing the hearts of those around to be shaken. This fellow dared to collide with an 8-star expert Dou zone. Such courage really caused others to have no choice but to be impressed. Again. Xiao Yan stepped forward. His voice once again resonated over the ground. That wild heat within his voice caused the skin on one's head to feel numb. When the disciples from the burning flame valley in the empty ground saw Xiao Yan rub away the trace of blood from the corner of his mouth, continue to stand as straight as a spear, and emit a sharp aura as he did so, all of them became speechless. None of them had expected Xiao Yan to endure Wu Chen's fierce attack. 5 exchanges has passed. On the stairs, Tang Zhen exhaled a gentle breath as he slowly announced. At this moment, his eyes also contained a faint surprise when they looked at Xiao Yan. Xiao Yan being able to last for 5 exchanges in Wu Chen's hands without falling had caused him to feel a little surprise. After all, he understood Wu Chen quite well. An 8-star Dou zone was definitely considered a top-tier expert across the Central Plains region. Tang Hui'er by the side also gently nodded. Her eyes contained a curious glint as they stared at Xiao Yan. This young man, who was of similar age to her, seemed to always surprise others. Wu Chen's body also gently drifted down from the sky. His foot violently stomped on the ground as a majestic force surged out. Immediately, the hard stone floor under his foot shattered into a cluster of powder. After gently waving his sleeves, Wu Chen narrowed his eyes, and he looked at Xiao Yan a short distance away. He commented in a faint voice, "It is not a bad Dou skill, and it is very strong. However, the gap between our strengths is too large. It is likely that even I would not dare to easily receive this strike. This old fellow's sky-shattering stone steps has an extremely fierce explosive force. However, it is fortunately not as agile as the 3000 lightning movement. There are still 5 exchanges left. It looks like I must go all out." Xiao Yan's expression became more solemn. A majestic, jade-green Dou Qi filled his entire body. This Dou Qi was like a flame as it wrapped around him. Wave after wave of dense heat was repeatedly emitted from the Dou Qi. However, if you only possess these skills, it is likely that you will not be able to endure the remaining 5 exchanges, Wu Chen smiled. A gloating expression, that was difficult to hide, was present in his eyes. He clenched both of his hands and a fire light lingered over it. His warhammer-like large hands were clenched and the surrounding space formed a slight distortion. Wu Chen's voice had just sounded when his feet once again violently stormed forward. The stone floor under his feet blasted apart. His body emitted a swoosh sound and a deep sonic boom. In the blink of an eye, he appeared in front of Xiao Yan, who was 100 meters away. The red figure flashed within the dark black eyes of Xiao Yan. His face changed slightly, and the 3000 lightning movement was used in reflex. His body also hurriedly withdrew a couple of steps in the process. Rip! A red figure suddenly arrived just as Xiao Yan was pulling back. The figure grabbed onto Xiao Yan's clothes as a fiery red glow swept forth, tearing his clothes and causing a trace of blood to appear. Xiao Yan's body rushed back. His expression was as deep as water while he glanced at the naked hand of Wu Chen. There were 5 bright red blood traces there. The 5 blood scars had just appeared when they were covered by a seared black color. Clearly, Xiao Yan was wounded by Wu Chen's pure yang cotton hand. Your reflexes are not bad. However, you will not be so lucky next time. Wu Chen randomly tossed aside the cloth fragment. He glanced at Xiao Yan, who was swiftly withdrawing, and laughed. If this continues, it is likely that I will really have difficulty enduring without using the angry Buddha lotus flame. A glint swiftly flashed through Xiao Yan's eyes while his body swiftly pulled back. This time around, I shall completely end this. Wu Chen's eyes calmly watched Xiao Yan as he swiftly pulled back. Wu Chen's foot was once again lifted before it suddenly descended. Xiao Yan's swiftly withdrawing figure suddenly came to a halt when Wu Chen's foot had just landed. His foot also violently stomped on the ground. The powerful strength shattered the hard stone floor into powder. He swung his sleeves and the powder formed dust as it spread apart, causing one sight to become extremely blur. The dust that spread apart did not cause Wu Chen to pause. He coldly let out a simple trick laugh before his body let out a swish sound as it rushed forward. Wu Chen's figure was rushing forward and was just about to charge into the permeating dust when a figure sprang out from within it. After which, a silver glow flickered and it hurriedly fled. You wish to escape. This palm was firmly slammed into the figure. Its vast and mighty force sent Xiao Yan flying. Immediately, that figure fell onto the ground 100 meters away amid numerous cries of surprise. The hard ground cracked apart and numerous arm-thick cracks appeared. Quite a number of Burning Flame Valley elders had a slight change in their expressions as they stood on the stairs. Tang Hui'er covered her small mouth. She did not expect Xiao Yan to reveal such a large opening to Wu Chen. Xiao Yan's body, which had landed on the ground, staggered up. However, Wu Chen merely frowned. His body moved and appeared beside him. After which, he grabbed Xiao Yan's neck and slowly lifted him up. Immediately, a faint voice was emitted, admit defeat. If the old me wanted to kill you, you would have already lost your life. Xiao Yan's feet landed on the ground after his neck was grabbed by Wu Chen. His pale white face, however, revealed a strange smile as he said in a hoarse voice, 9 exchanges. Wu Chen was startled when he heard these words from Xiao Yan. Before he could recover, Xiao Yan, whose neck had been grabbed by him, immediately let out a bang and exploded. After which, he suddenly disappeared. The sudden scene caused most of the people present to feel stunned. Even Wu Chen, who was involved, was startled for a moment. After which, he suddenly reacted to the situation. His eyes immediately landed on the spot covered by dust. At this moment, the dust had gradually become thinner. A vague figure slowly walked out of it. Immediately, that familiar face that wore a smile appeared in front of everyone's eyes. Spiritual avatar. Wu Chen's expression gradually turned gloomy. A moment later, he finally spat out 2 words from between his teeth. Xiao Yan involuntarily smiled when he saw Wu Chen's gloomy face. This old fellow had been tricked by him. That old man had caught the spiritual avatar and had such fun beating it up. Tang Huier by the side also sighed in relief. She immediately curled her mouth and laughed. This Xiao Yan is really cunning. Wu Chen was looking at the smiling Xiao Yan with a gloomy expression within the battleground. A moment later, he inhaled a deep breath of air and said, "The old me has indeed underestimated you. However, you need not be so happy. There is still one last exchange. This time around, the old me will definitely not hold back." A ruthless expression flashed across Wu Chen's eyes when his words sounded. Clearly, he had lost a great amount of face from having come close to a loss by Xiao Yan's hands this time around. The bright red glow was just like a flame at this moment as it repeatedly surged out of Wu Chen's body. In the end, even his white hair turned into a fiery red color. Looking from a distance, he appeared just like a fire god descending. He was filled with a frightening might. The expressions of Tang Zhen and the others on the stairs slightly changed when they saw this aura. All of them were aware that this time was going to be the start of a serious fight. However, it was really a little too much of a bully's move to use such a powerful Dou skill against someone from the younger generation. This old fellow is really becoming shameless these days. Tang Zhen slowly said. The anger within his voice was something that everyone present was aware of. This valley chief of the Burning Flame Valley was indeed furious this time around. The second elder by the side opened his mouth, but could only shut it again in the face of the frightening pressure that spread around Tang Zhen. He too did not expect Wu Chen would be forced by Xiao Yan to act like this. Wu Chen did not sense the fury of Tang Zhen. At this moment, his heart was similarly filled with anger. He had suffered a loss in Xiao Yan's hands despite his strength. This was something that he had difficulty accepting. Moreover, this had occurred in front of so many people. Bang! A loud and clear sound appeared. Wu Chen's body transformed into a fiery light that shot out in a lightning-like manner. Within a breath's time, he appeared above Xiao Yan's head. His old face vaguely possessed a savage expression. Dominating fire demon palm. The enormous hand was covered by a glaring red glow. After which, it was accompanied by a frightening momentum as it smashed furiously toward Xiao Yan below. Xiao Yan raised his head. His looked at the fiery red color that filled his eyes. A cold smile also slowly rose on his face. He raised his hand and his sleeves fell. After which, a beautiful, 3-colored fire lotus appeared in front of everyone's eyes. Tang Zhen's expression instantly changed the moment the 3-colored fire lotus appeared. The 3-colored fire lotus rotated over Xiao Yan's palm. Each time it rotated, the surrounding space would form numerous dark black spatial lines that caused one's heart to feel a chill. The appearance of the fire lotus allowed everyone to clearly sense the natural energy suddenly become fierce and untamed. Moreover, the temperature was also swiftly rising. This unusual phenomenon resulted in the expressions of everyone changing. Even Tang Zhen revealed a shocked expression in his eyes. That strange 3-colored fire lotus seemed to hide a terrifying destructive power. Moreover, this kind of strength was something that he felt somewhat familiar with. This is, the heavenly flame strength? Tang Zhen's eyes shrank as he thought within his heart. Among those who experienced a change in their expressions because of the appearance of the fire lotus included the person involved in the battle, Wu Chen. Due to his close proximity, he was the one who had the deepest understanding of the destructive strength contained within the fire lotus. In the face of the exquisite, 3-colored fire lotus, the third elder of the Burning Flame Valley finally revealed a look of disbelief for the first time. He would have never imagined that Xiao Yan, a 1-star Dou Zong, would be able to unleash this frightening strength, even he was terrified of, even if he had broken his head in the process. How is this possible? A glow swiftly flashed across Wu Chen's eyes. A moment later, he suddenly clenched his teeth and a ruthless expression appeared in his eyes. Although Xiao Yan's fire lotus was frightening, his dominating fire demon palm was also not ordinary. No one knew just who would be defeated in the other party's hands. Wu Chen, this old demon, who had become experienced with age, was not only not shaken by the fire lotus but had instead formed a greater fighting intent at this moment. This was because he clearly understood that he might still win if he advanced, but if he were to withdraw, he would definitely lose. Regardless of whether the 10 exchanges had reached, any carelessness on his part would result in him becoming extremely miserable because of this beautiful, three-colored fire lotus. Dominating fire demon palm, fire demon encasing world. The aura within Wu Chen's body surged with the loud cry. His hand swelled in a lightning-like manner. In an instant, it had swelled to 10 feet in size. Looking from a distance, he appeared just like a lamp that was emitting a strong glow. After this cry sounded, the mysterious red seal in Wu Chen's palm also swelled. The wild, violent energy contained within it also increased. Third Elder has used the strongest fire demon seal in the dominating fire demon palm. Xiao Yan's expression did not change as the fiery red glow soared above his head. He really disliked Wu Chen. He seemed really intent on not giving him any chances during this 10 exchange test. Even if he had to use most of his strength in this last chance, Wu Chen still did not show any signs of hesitation. All of this was to prevent Xiao Yan from successfully obtaining that Skyfire 3 mysterious change. Wu Chen's attacks were all extremely heavy-handed during these couple of exchanges. If Xiao Yan did not possess any skill, it was likely that his fate would not have been good. This was the ultimate reason why Xiao Yan had hardened his heart and used the three-colored fire lotus. Since you do not wish to allow me to have an easy time, I shall make you pay the price for it. A vicious expression flashed across Xiao Yan's dark black eyes. His hands were suddenly swung and the three-colored, exquisite fire lotus suddenly shot out. Wu Chen let out a furious roar the moment the fire lotus shot out, dominating fire demon seal. The roar had just sounded when the mysterious fire-red seal glow immediately surged. The symbol fell from Wu Chen's hand at that instant before transforming into a shocking glow. Even space shook because of its frightening strength as it rushed down in a lightning-like manner. The glow and the three-colored lotus floated closer together. In a mere instant, the two collided between Wu Chen and Xiao Yan like meteorites. They contained a terrifying strength in front of a countless number of gazes. The entire place was quiet when the two collided. An innumerable number of expressions on everyone's faces seemed to have stilled at this moment. Bang! This kind of unusual silence lasted for only a breath's time. After which, an energy storm that frightened even an elite dozong instantly brewed at the spot where the two collided. Grog! The energy storm had just appeared and the fast-rotating energy tail violently swung into Xiao Yan and Wu Hao's body. Immediately, the two appeared to have received a heavy blow as they spat out a mouthful of fresh blood. Their bodies appeared just like kites with their string cut as they flew backwards. They landed heavily, rubbing and creating 100-meter-long scars on the ground. Only then, did they slowly come to a stop. After the two were sent flying, the frightening energy storm began to increase in intensity. Flames surged within it. Not only did this cause the temperature of this place to rise, but it also stirred the energy, turning it wild and violent. No one dared to randomly absorb this energy into one's body at this moment. The enormous energy storm was over 1,000 feet in size. It appeared like a hurricane as it spread across the sky. The fierce, violent pressure that rained down from the storm caused the expressions of those present to involuntarily change. At this moment, the empty space outside of the hall had been completely shattered. Wave after wave of energy strikes continuously spread from the storm. Even some of the enormous trees in the distant forest broke after being implicated by the force. Tang Zhen's face was stern. No one had expected things to turn into this state. This was merely just a test, but the things that were created seemed as though one was attempting to destroy the entire burning flame valley. If I do not take care of this mess, it is likely that the burning flame valley will be turned into chaos by this thing. Tang Zhen could only slowly sigh after being quiet for a moment. He glanced at the second elder beside him. The second elder quivered because of Tang Zhen's glance. His face was immediately covered with a bitter smile. He knew that the matter today had completely angered Tang Zhen. However, being an elder, he needed to step forward and take care of these matters. After all, the Skyfire 3 mysterious change was not an ordinary thing. With this pulling action, a crack, over 100 feet in size, immediately formed in space. That crack line contained an endless darkness, which caused one to vaguely feel afraid. Tearing space, this soul-stirring ability was likely something that only an ultimate expert at the Dou Zun class was able to perform. Go! Tang Zhen's hands faced the enormous energy storm from a great distance. He suddenly clenched them. After which, the quickly rotating energy storm gradually came to a stop. Finally, it was violently pushed before being tossed into the dark black crack line. The energy storm had just been thrown into the spatial line when it swiftly mended. In an instant, it completely vanished. That frightening energy storm that raged over the place disappeared with it. The many surrounding disciples from the burning flame valley finally sighed in relief after seeing the frightening thing disappear. They immediately wiped the cold sweat off their faces. If Tang Zhen had not intervened today, it was likely that this place would be turned into ruins. This Xiao Yan is indeed not an ordinary person. He is able to get the heavenly flame to unleash such might. My burning flame valley has controlled the 9-dragon lightning flame for many years, but we are unable to reach such a stage. This boy is really extraordinary. Tang Zhen sighed quietly in his heart. He involuntarily cherished such talent. However, on second thought, Xiao Yan likely already possessed a teacher in order for him to reach such a level. Immediately, disappointment flashed through his eyes. Tang Zhen's eyes swept under him as he stood in the sky. After which, they paused on the spot where Xiao Yan and Wu Chen had landed. At this moment, the both of them struggled for a moment before climbing to their feet with much difficulty. They looked at each other from a distance. There was some provocation in their gazes. The 10 exchanges are over. Wu Chen, you have lost. Tang Zhen slowly descended from the sky and spoke in a faint voice. The miserable-looking Wu Chen was startled when he heard Tang Zhen's voice. Immediately, he grit his teeth unwillingly. He did not expect that he would lose to a younger generation, a result that was completely unexpected. Although he was not satisfied, his heart involuntarily formed a chill when he recalled the frightening energy storm from earlier. If he had been swept into it, it was likely that he would, at the very least, end up seriously injured. Tang Zhen's eyes slid to Xiao Yan. He smiled slightly and his voice had become a little friendlier. Since Wu Chen has already lost, according to the rules, the Skyfire 3 mysterious change should belong to you, congratulations.